long as the realms of man have existed, so too have kings to rule them. Kings that rule through power and their prowess in combat, some that rule through the love and admiration of their followers, and others that rule through fear. Yet a king is only a man, and there is one being who would ensure that all kings knew the true meaning of the word fear. His origins unknown, his motivations unclear. Some say it is a demon or spirit, while others suggest it is merely an identity passed down through the ages. While much is shrouded in mystery, there is one name whispered only from the shadows: Kingslayer. One thing is clear from the histories, however. Wherever there was a king, whether corrupt or pure, it mattered no difference. The Kingslayer would come. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new lore build. So this is the Kingslayer. Of course, this is the same character that was the Audius champion, SL300. But yeah, before we hop back into the lore and get into some PvP and all that good stuff, let's give you a brief look at the build. Of course, like I said, the Kingslayer is a legendary figure that I have now integrated into the Dark Souls universe, known for killing kings. As you can see, he has the King Shield, pried from the dead hands of King Vendrick himself, the Lord of Drangleic. The Helm of Aureus, the first king of the desert land of Jugo. A pyromancy flame and magnificent spells from King Jeremiah. A sanctum crossbow he gained on his journeys to kill the Sunken King. The stone ring obtained while slaying the shieldless Lothian in an attempt of the man to protect his king. And of course, Gower's ring of protection, because some say the Kingslayer is a reincarnation of Gower himself, a legendary assassin known to have killed half-dozen kings and several distinguished clergymen. So, in short, a lot of lore going around in this build, obviously. This is a strength pyromancy hybrid. As you can see, I'm using a butcher's knife and a King's Ultra Greatsword as my main source of damage. Our butcher's knife, of course, for the range and the quick follow-up. The King's Ultra to just smash it as it gets too close. And, of course, you know, it was made from the soul of Vendrick, and we're the Kingslayer, so it makes sense. Like I said, crossbow as a quick ranged option. Of course, we have our pyromancy flame for our pyromancies, our shield from Vendrick himself, the Aureus helm, because it looks a lot better than the Jeremiah helm in my opinion, and I wanted to fit one more king into the build somehow. And then, of course, the Executioner armor, gauntlets, and leggings, just because, you know, that's what this guy does. He executes people. So the rings, of course, we're running Chloranthy and Third Dragon, as always. Stone ring, because this build is basically a glass cannon, and when we get a hit, we need to make sure that we are going to finish our enemies right there. And then the Gower's ring for twofold. One, just to help protect against backstabs in general, because a lot of this game seems to be backstab happy lately. And also because I felt that it just, you know, it really kind of fit in with the lore of this guy, you know. How I said that he's, you know, known throughout history. Some say it's the name that's just passed down, and, you know, the Gower's, just Gower himself kind of fits perfectly into the description of the character I was going to make. So, part of this was, you know, inspired by the Butcher build I did a couple months ago. I really wanted to revisit the Butcher's Knife and Pyromancy, and the other part, you know, just starting up the Witcher Assassin of Kings strung through. I kind of was thinking about that, and then on top of that we have, you know, the Lost Crown trilogy and all those kings, so I thought it'd be cool to introduce a Kingslayer type character. But as far as spell loadout, we of course have on Flame Weapon to enchant our weapon, Forbidden Sun, Great Chaos Fireball, a Combustion, a Flame Whip, a Chaos Storm, and then of course a Warmth. Looking at the stats real quick, you can see we are SL300, running 50 Vigor, 50 Endurance, Vitality up at 54 to be able to carry all this stuff. And I thought about using the Soldier Ring, but I really wanted to run both Stone and Gower's for combat reasons, so we just pumped Vitality up. Attunement, of course, is at 75, so we have enough slots for all those pyromancies, because we're all about pyromancies. Strength at 80, you would need it at least 75 to be able to power stance these swords. Dexterity at 15, which will allow us to power stance the swords, and because it's the requirement for Sanctum Crossbow. And then adaptability we have at base, but 105 agility, so it doesn't really matter. And then of course int and faith, I both rounded them right up to 10 because I had some extra points left around. So yeah, really fun build. Like I said, a complete glass cannon, but you know, either way, the Kingslayer's here, and he found out that there's a king in these parts, so he's gonna make his way to get him. As the Kingslayer made his way into the lava-y firescape in front of him, he walked across a broken stone bridge. He had heard rumors of a king that lie within the depths, the old Iron King. Knowing not what await him, he began to move forward. But lo and behold, a group of knights would block his way. Knights wielding strong katanas. He dodged and struck out, knowing that these foes would not be enough to stop him. Defending up with the great shield he had taken from Lord Vendrick, he was able to block their attacks with these and slice his way through. Taking a sip from his magical orange juice, he continued the journey within the keep, the doors already opened. Upon entering, he noticed the keep looked almost decrepit of life. A few knights lay around, but as it looked like the keep had once been covered in flame, now all the flames had died. Had this had something to do with the old Iron King? Had this once king now lost his way and become nothing more than a figment of the past? As the Kingslayer wondered, he began to march forward, dispatching all the Allen Knights that lay before him. His trusty butcher's knife at his side, a weapon that he had cleaved many a king with. He slashed his way through the knights, continuing on his path forward. Alas, another knight would attack, but it mattered not, for his butcher's knife was strong enough to cleave through the toughest of foes, and none of these enemies would stand in his way. Below, an arrow from afar. He noticed apparently these knights were more than just katanas, but also masters of the bow. Taking a hit, he dipped around a corner to heal quickly, knowing that his enemies were likely coming, and decided to pull out the weapon that he had recently obtained after slaying the King of Vendrick. As he approached the Allen Knight, with a swift blow, he quickly took it down. Continuing onward, though, he came into another sea of lava, seeing various doors composed of fog ahead of him, and a knight off to the side. This knight also wielding a bow. He knew he must dispatch this foe from afar. But seeing the armor of the enemy, he decided it would be better to ignore it and continue on his journey forward. Through the use of repair powder, he reinstilled vigor into his butcher's knife and continued his assault on the Iron Keep. One Allen Knight after another came before him in attempts to slay the Kingslayer. He wondered, were they still protecting their king? What was the purpose of them? Why were they here? It seemed to him that if a king had once lived here, he was now merely a remnant of what he once was. As he opened the door to what would seem to be an incinerator, he noticed two great red knights came forth. Knowing these were not the foes he would be able to simply dispatch, he quickly changed his strategy, knowing he would have to mix in the power of the great pyromancies that he took from the Xanthus King Jeremiah to defeat his foes. Lo and behold, these knights were nay immune to the fire almost. The damage that he had come to know as powerful enough to slay the mightiest of foes would only tickle the knights. He knew he may be in trouble. Quickly ran to take a sip from his magical orange juice. He managed to strike one of the knights, but the other struck him back. In an attempt to heal again, he dipped behind a ladder, using an intuitive use of his environment to make sure he could dispatch the knights. But the last arrows flew at him from afar. He knew he had to strike hard and fast, taking out his ultra great sword. He traded blows, felling the first of the red demons, and circling around the second, waiting for an opportunity. He knocked it down, and across the back with his butcher's knife. Knowing he may be able to beat the beast, he swung out with both weapons, slaying it. As he drank more of his magical orange juice, he continued forth on his journey, coming to a bridge with one more knight awaiting him. As he slay the knight, he noticed powerful arrows being shot at him. He rushed up the stairs before another arrow would come and loose, and found a place to rest briefly. After resting in what would be known as Ironhearth Hall to replenish himself, he decided the time to continue his journey was now. Ahead of him, another one of the great knights. But the knight was no match for the power of his blades. With a quick blow, he dispatched the knight before the knight could strike, and proceeded forward to encounter an abomination of a man that seemed to be half turtle. With two powerful strikes, he felled the great beast. And lo and behold, the beast itself, its twin, knocked out the platform. As the Kingslayer plummeted into the sea of lava below, he chuckled to himself, knowing that something as simple as a pool of lava would not be enough to stop him, for the Kingslayer had persisted across the ages, and he was not one to be so easily defeated. Rising up at the bonfire he had previously rested, the Kingslayer knew now that he was hollowed, and as such the limitations of flesh that had previously constrained him no longer applied. He struck out against the Allen Knight, knocking it to its knees and striking it with great power. On destroying the Allen Knight, he once again proceeded forward, ready to fight the monstrous turtle beasts that he had previously encountered. With two strong attacks, he fell the turtle beast, fighting its partner and being knocked back brutally. With another blow, he attacked the turtle beast. Seeing a green glowing ball that only resembled what he could assume were his souls, he decided to leave them behind, knowing that all the screams of the previous kings he had killed were within those souls, and as such, there was a chance that they would also be a threat. As Spirit Geek, the foul invader, came into the realms of the Kingslayer, he pulled a lever in front of him, a mysterious lever that happened to result in the death of Spirit Geek as well. What a silly foe, thought the Kingslayer, as the man fell to his death in a lava bath. Ahead ahead of him, another one of the great Iron Turtle Knights awaited. He shot out at it with his crossbow, knowing it would entice the beast to come closer. As he saw more Allied Knights, he ran quickly, with haste, noticing what seemed to be a lever mechanism. He ran around, hitting each of the levers and knocking the knights into the fiery depths below. He waited for the turtle beast to approach, knowing he had one more lever at his disposal. As the turtle beast came and struck, he hit the final lever, dropping the beast into the fiery depths. As he continued onward, the lack of flames in the keep further concerned him. He knew it was not normal, for the stories he had heard of the keep insisted that it was filled with flames that burned forever. As another Allied Knight struck out, he countered back, swinging with his great blades, and felling the once previous knight, whose purpose had now seemed to have become corrupted, and he continued onward. Seeing another one of the Grand Turtles, he decided it may be wise to switch to one of his great pyromancies. Throwing out a great chaos fireball, he struck the beast with immense force. Again, he thought, trading a great chaos fireball in exchange for a strong blow, but it was not enough. Lo and behold, up above, there seemed to be a knight that had waited. He threw out a grand fireball at the knight, hitting it with such force that the beast was knocked and fell down to its doom. Truly, he wondered what had caused such red demons to invade the premises he now stood at. As he approached, he noticed another grand turtle monster in front of him. The beast, with a seemingly endless supply of stamina, able to run after him to no avail. He would not be fallen by such a foul creature, though, and he continued onward. Raising the cleaver in front of him again, he continued forth into the room and noticed a strange ladder in front of him. As he climbed up, he wondered what he would find at the top. A great red warrior would await him. One that seems to have been a modified version of the turtle monsters he had been facing. He threw out a forbidden sun to the face of the enemy, throwing another. Looking at the enemy, the Kingslayer knew he would not be able to beat the foe in mortal combat, regardless of how powerful his abilities were. And as such, another great chaos fireball came out, hitting the beast for massive amounts of damage. And another one. As strong as the armored monster was, the Kingslayer knew that it was no match for pyromancy, as he had fallen many a similar beast before. With one last cast, a great flame whip came forth from his hand, and fell the Red Knight, a Dray Keeper's great hammer. He wondered what was this being doing with this great hammer. Something he may not understand, but alas, he found one final bonfire to rest at. After replenishing himself, he continued onward, back down the stairs and making his way to the end of the keep, where he knew the king that he had come for would await him. As he reached the bottom, he noticed one last great turtle knight barred his path, throwing out more pyromancies. The knight stood no chance against the Kingslayer. As he made his way down from the cathedral of the keep, he noticed a great platform in front of him, a literal sea of lava. He wondered what awaits me beyond this foggy wall. As such, he enchanted the power of flame on his weapon, knowing not what would await him, but knowing it would be worth it to enchant nonetheless. The lava rose as if it had a will of its own, but lo! A great demon rose forth from it, one resembling something similar to a Balrog from legend. The beast's mouth seemed to have flowed with lava itself. This was the monster he had come from. This was the old Iron King. The Kingslayer knew he may be in trouble against the beast, and as such properly enchanted up, putting out a warmth to heal him during the battle. But as big as the king was, its large size made its movements slow. The Kingslayer took a quick blow, but struck back out, hitting the king for very powerful amounts of damage. Getting hit again, he swung back again, dealing revenge damage to the king, and being knocked to his death in lava. Knowing that the beast that stood before him was no king, but a monster, the Kingslayer quickly decided that he would have to fell the beast by other means. After reaching into his endless box of magics, he pulled forth a ring that would amplify his attack. Knowing the king could not be staggered, he switched on this ring of blades in place of the ring he had taken from the great knight to destroy poise with, and proceeded forth to destroy this foul monstrosity that dared to call itself a king. The Kingslayer had devoured a human effigy, reassuring himself of his own humanity, for after seeing the foul beast that claimed to be a king, he knew this would be no normal fight. As he quickly dispatched the Iron Knight in front of him, he proceeded forward again, knowing that all the men he had killed in the past would hold no challenge compared to what he was up against now. Regardless, he went forth, now reaffirmed, his humanity back, renewed strength. He awaited the old Iron King, a monstrosity of lava and iron itself. As it arose from the lava, the Kingslayer approached. It seemed as though the Iron King was not to be trifled with. He struck out. A quick hit, but it was not effective enough. Waiting on the king's strong attacks, our champion dodged. Upon seeing the arm hit the ground, he struck out. 1,200 damage he hit the beast with. But the king was smart. He would vary up his attacks and strike twice, knowing the Kingslayer had expected only one attack. As he rolled under the arm of the king, barely dodging another one, the ring of the great Gower protecting his flank. Kingslayer rolled again, hacking at the arms of the great beast, as if to cut the wrists themselves. The old Iron King let out a shout of anger, But the Kingslayer would not be frightened. As he was knocked back by the fiery breath of the beast, he quickly healed up, knowing that the beast would be quick to strike again. Kingslayer waited for his opportunity, seeing the flames of the monster come towards him. He rolled through the flames and hit the great king upon his fingers. Not wanting to waste any time, the king struck down. Brimstone itself seemed to fire from his hands, but it was no match for the Kingslayer. Regardless of man or beast, he had come determined to fell the old Iron King. As he embraced the great soul in front of him, he knew now that that was no normal man he had defeated, for he obtained the soul of the old dead one itself. And on that day, the Kingslayer knew that not only had he defeated a great iron monstrosity, but he had also defeated the soul of a previous king of legend, one that perhaps he had killed in a previous life. So with the old Iron King dead, it's finally time to showcase some of the PvP potential of this build for you guys. Fortunately, the only invader we got in the footage was the guy that wanted to take a lava bath, so that didn't work very well. But in short, this build is, I said earlier, you know, it's basically a glass cannon for PvP. And what I mean by that is you have extremely high damage potential, but at the same time, it's very, very easy to get killed. Now, the main way to accomplish this is through the use of quick follow-up L1 attacks. As you can see, R1 L1, R1 R1 L1. That swing is basically, you know, just grossly fast compared to, you know, if you guys remember back when I did the actual greatsword build, it's like swing, swing, and it's a lot slower. And well, this doesn't even work with the greatswords; it does that, which isn't what we want to do. We want to do the across the body. And basically, with the way the butcher's knife works, it allows you to attack extremely fast with that L1, almost regardless of what weapon's in it. So whether it's a King's Ultra Greatsword or, you know, a Drakekeeper Great Axe, or, you know, a regular Greatsword, or Demonic Hammer or Demon's Hammer, I mean, all the follow-ups in your L1 come extremely fast out of your R2, so, or you're out of your R1. So right there, like you saw, we did the R1 R1 L1, a very powerful combo. Personally, I like going for the roll because I think the roll attack on the butcher's knife is fantastic. Double pokies, man. Backsteps, you can do the same thing. Oh, that guy died. So basically, here's going to be your main combos, right? R1, L1. Oh, let me get my stamina back here. You're going roll, R1, R1, L1. And then, of course, your standard, just R1, R1, L1. And, I mean, I don't know if it's actually intentional with this sword or if it's an oversight, but, you know, for whatever reason, you swing that a lot faster than you probably should be able to. So, I mean, especially on a build where you pump your strength and you put on a weapon like this, it ends up with some pretty brutal results, because, I mean, when that hit connects, you're usually doing, you know, somewhere in the range of 1,000+ damage between hitting him with both weapons. So, needless to say, absolutely brutal combination, and like I said, you can run this with just about any weapon in your offhand, and you'll have the same speed of attack. I mean, just from trying out a couple, you know, if we put on, nope, not what I wanted to do. Where's that other greatsword I got? Yeah, put on this greatsword, you can see, same thing, just grossly fast. That one has even more range. See if the great hammer works. swing, swing, swing. Yeah. Just insanely fast every time. So we went for the King's Ultra Great Sword just because, you know, if I'm going to run that combo, I want to get absolutely as much pack into my punch as I can. And for that purpose, the Ultra Great Sword is a fantastic weapon to use. I mean, the thing hits like a fucking Mack truck. So, pretty awesome. Like I said, obviously you don't have a lot of defense at all. I mean, we're basically in rags. So Gowers helps a little bit with some protection from the back. Of course, the King's Shield has 100% physical and relatively high stability, so that helps to eat up attacks if you have to. But for the most part, you know, this build is meant to be highly aggressive, right up in your enemy's face. You know, you don't really want to give them any time to react to you. You know, you want to get in there and get the damage as fast as you can. So, in terms of weaknesses, it is kind of hard fighting against rapiers and short swords, especially if they're quicker. In general, if you're going to do that L1, you got to hit it. You got to get an R1 attack in ahead of time so that you get the stagger. Without the stagger, it's not nearly as effective. And you're also vulnerable to parries because, you know, we're not running, well, parries are pretty much, everyone's vulnerable to parries right now. It's like the thing of the season is just fucking parries. But I mean, if you just want to dance with people, that's, oh my god, can you stop that? You little bitch. This guy just hitting me back and forth, and I just fucked up. Oh, God. Okay, add another combo to the list. Roll L1. That also worked. Save my ass. Either way, you know, that's just a quick introduction to how the PvP works with this build. So, you know, similar to before, at this point, I have said all there is to say. Obviously, with the release of the upcoming DLC, I suggest trying out some of those pyromancies with the build. They might work better. And with that, let's, you know, let's put on some music and do some PvP.